Hello everyone, this is Cheeseburger Jesus. Welcome to Feelsfest 2017, where I am playing the visual novel Narcissu. I think that's how it's pronounced. I'm not Japanese, and I'm 99% sure that you are not either. This is my Feelsfest game for 2017, but it says 2005-2007, so it's not a new game. So we have Narcissu and Side Second. So I'm going to go with the original Agilis GP32 or Chinese. Insanity. We always keep Insanity Spirit. I guess we're going with that one. And we're going unvoiced. On a blindingly bright day, on that very day of winter. 2001, 2002, 2003. From the July 2004 police statistics on suicide. Oh. Spring 1996. Setsumi. True, I wasn't very healthy ever since I was a child. Even so, I attended elementary school like all the others, and during summer breaks I often played until I was utterly tanned. June, shortly after my entry into middle school. The day after I'd ordered a swimsuit to use the next month. My first hospitalization. On a day just before the first semester's midterms. On a day when the first drops of rain were so cruelly cold. Falling from amidst the pure white of the overcast sky. Of course, the first time it happened, all my classmates came to visit me almost every day. And when I was released, they even came to my house on weekends to play. But that was only the first time around. Autumn into winter, winter into spring, a vicious cycle. Hospitalization, release, clinics. And hospitalization again. And before I knew it, even the classmates I once called friends turned into acquaintances, and then into strangers. As if, with every changing of seasons, I was being erased from their collective memory. It seems that, to all those normal people, my very existence was an unpleasant fact. And so, it looks like I've been erased. I'd spent so many seasons, so many white overcast skies, without the want or need to converse with anybody. For that matter, my English textbook never changed from that of a first-year middle school student before the first midterms. That is where my time seems to come to an end. Stage... oh, well, I can't read that fast. "8 years later, early 2004, protagonist. Summer, flowing sweat. The gigantic electronic scoreboard in the driver's license examination facility lit up all at once. My eyes and everyone else's was looking for our respective numbers. 237, 237, and of some 8 columns of lit text. Sure enough, my examination number was shining in the midst. Clickety-clack. A nearly empty train car, perhaps thanks to the beautiful afternoon. Almost alone in that train car, I was heading back home from the examination hall. My left hand held a new traffic regulations handbook, and my breast pocket held my brand new driver's license. So now, I've got a license as well. I muttered somewhat happily, but there was no strong feelings behind it. I never particularly wanted to drive a car. I never particularly had any motive for it. It was just that my colleagues in the Technical Institute both recommended that I at least get a driver's license. That night, when I told my parents that I'd gotten my license, they merely replied with an "I see." And when I asked if I could borrow the car, just for a test run, they instantly and curtly said just one thing: no. Well, I didn't really want to drive the car or anything. The response was all too expected. Those were my parents for you. The next day, I awoke with chest pain and went to the hospital. Sickness and I generally had nothing to do with each other, which is why I found the ER waiting room to be utterly boring. And just when I thought they were through examining me, they ordered an x-ray and some blood tests. Then they left. And again, I was waiting for a long, long time. I'd already polished off 3 volumes of Shonen Jump. I don't know what that is. And was just about to start on a 4th when they admitted me to the hospital right then and there. And it seemed that my new license, which still lay snugly in my breast pocket, would have to wait for a long time for its turn to come. Autumn 2004. Protagonist. Right around when all the too noisy cicadas had finally gone silent, I once again found myself in the hospital, as per usual. Of course, it wasn't as if I'd been there the entire time. I came and went, a futile cycle. My first surgery was a month before. After that, I started doing the 5-minute commute to and from the hospital by moped. And from then on, I was hospitalized, discharged, ordered to a clinic, hospitalized again, and again, and again. Well, I still had no clue what PET or IRESA stood for. In no time at all, several months had already passed. As my appetite decreased, my medications increased. I could only feel my own physical strength atrophying away. I keep imagining that my legs were getting thinner, but the needle of the weigh scale rudely informed me, it's not just your imagination. And yet I kept looking on at myself with detached interest, as if it were happening to someone else entirely, as if I were looking at it, a scene on TV or the like. My mind could not grasp what had so suddenly happened to my body. Nothing within me was telling me that this was real at all. And that's why, even though it was all happening to me, I kept looking on as if it were happening to someone far away. Winter 2004. A day of winter, around when the Christmas trees had vanished from the streets. I was discharged home as a kind of year's end treat. It seemed like an exercise in total transcendence, but still, it made me slightly happy. I traveled back to a home I had not seen in a long time in the midst of a freezing rain. Strangely enough, my entire family was there. My parents, who had never so much as talked to me, came out to meet me with terribly stilted smiles. My little sister, with whom I'd never had a pleasant word, had my favorite... I can't talk, oops. With whom I'd never had a pleasant word, had made my favorite cream stew and fried shrimp just for me. They'd made me sit at the table, they peeled tangerines for me. They were cruelly kind, which was an impressive display. At this point, a little thought occurred to me. About my new driver's license, which was still stuffed away in my pocket, that perhaps would end for the license without it ever having known any use. And surrounded by a trio of stilted, strained smiles, I kept that thought as if it were someone else's business, with dispassion, ambiguity, and total disinterest. January 2005. A new year began and I returned to the hospital, but on this day, instead of my usual 4F room, I ended up in a conference room of sorts. They took me there. And then my father and the doctors had a little talk. I joined in. Well, they talked to me. So this was their so-called announcement. They said it in a terribly roundabout fashion. But they told me that I was going to die. I see. That was my only reply. I had no other words. It was the only thing that left my mouth from beginning to end. The doctor's ballpoint pens flew across paper as if in response to my words. Those were probably hospice enrollment procedures, businesslike to the last. My father was the same. So it's this simple, was the only real thought I had. That day I was transferred from 4F to 7F, from a 6-person room to a private room. It was a little different from the other wards, this 7F. First of all, the floors were sparkling clean, and second of all, the ceiling was higher than I'd ever seen it. The rooms were very nice, and had large windows from which the warm daylight streamed in as if by design, but the windows only opened a little. I tested them out and my head would just barely fit out of one. The color of my ID bracelet changed as well. The bracelet that I had worn ever since the first hospitalization, the one that had my name and blood type recorded on it, its color has now changed from blue to white. A high ceiling, a white vinyl bracelet, a window that could not open more than 15 centimeters. The TP programs celebrating the new year were still playing when I was transferred to this 7F, which was at the dawn of that very year that I met her for the first time. Narcissu. Winter 2005, 7F, which means 7th floor if you have not figured that out already. Okay, well, now you understand why I said this is Feelsfest. And it's not a new game, but that's not what matters for feels. Am I right? You guys can feel feels. I believe. But this is the first episode of Narcissu, and this is Cheeseburger Jesus signing out. Bye bye.